about pastors who are just not that much into their church unless you're giving them money. And that has become a common theme, unfortunately, where you've got pastors who are on YouTube. They claim that they're from, that they care and about you, but they really don't. That's what I've been seeing. None of them really care about you. The ones that are on YouTube are saying that that they all want to be monetized more than anything. Now the thing is, it's like, well, most people need a job. However, pastors aren't ones who actually will go forth and make the effort to talk about politics because of the fact that they want to disengage. And this is how church has always been. So they want to profess self-private corporate governance, and they want to disengage from the community. They don't want to pay taxes. They don't. I mean, this is why churches and private business get along so well together, because both of the organizations together are very, very corrupt. And so this is just an observation that I have made. It's not about what a person believes in. It's just the observation that I have made, because I often think about why is it some churches actually are sustainable and other churches are not sustainable. Okay, so some churches are targeted with money. Now, this is a common story that I've heard over and over again, where the pastors will say, oh, well, we got a big donation of this much money. So they're trying to make it transparent. And then they'll say, oh, well, gosh, someone just decided out of the blue that they're going to try to catch up with their tithes. They feel guilty about something. When what it is someone just gave them money. I mean, and this is how the churches have been used for money laundering. So when you give them money just out of the blue, just dropped into the offering plate, or say that someone decides to mail the offering, so you can mail cash to the church. I mean, yes, that's taking a big, big chance. And we've heard all these stories about don't mail cash in the post office. But, someone who's doing money laundering, if it did get lost and the package kind of, all the money flew out of it and it was really poorly wrapped, and then it's all over inside of the mailbox. I mean, the post office is, yes, they're going to have a big mess, and they're going to have to try to figure out who the money belongs to. Typically that's what they do. I know one time that I had a package and it kind of blew out at the bottom, and there was a shoe inside. It was just one shoe. And there was a shoe stuffed inside of my package that wasn't mine. It was just something that was just there. They just stuck it inside of my box because it was open at the bottom. So what happened was I just didn't use a very good box, which I thought I was, but at that time it was hard to find good boxes that were heavy duty to mail things in and that weren't coming apart. That wasn't something I was thinking about, double boxing things so it didn't come apart. But people are always trying, so it's like if you're a pastor, the mayors of the town and cities that you live in. They know the politicians of the towns that they live in. And so, the pastors are, they're very similar to politicians. They ask for this money all the time to keep their business running. I mean, it's an ideal circumstance for money laundering, and they've always said that the Catholic Church helped with America and money laundering and nefarious purposes. But I was also thinking about, this thing related to lawyers. I have a perfect idea. All lawyers in the United States, they should have to report their everything, all money that they earn to the United States government. They shouldn't be able to have a private business practice. They should have to work for a company. They should have to work specifically for a company with full government oversight. And they can't do things independent, like create a employment lawyer business. To me, that just sounds like a recipe for corruption. Creating your own lawyer business outside of the government, where the government tries to keep things cheaper. So the for profit lawyer business, that's a problem. That's a big problem related to massive corruption. And so, I mean, who keeps track of lawyers when they have money coming? So a lawyer's office can literally become a functioning similar to pastors with money laundering. A private lawyer business outside of any business that doesn't have oversight and checks and balances is going to become a vessel for corruption outside of government where they have a checks and balances. But all these other business, they say, oh, well, you're stifling competition. It's like, no, no, you're talking about money laundering is what you're talking about. You're talking about money laundering and using a lawyer business even, or, creating your own court system. And it's like, oh, wait a minute. The government has a court system, but if you go over here and you decide you want to create a for-profit business court system, which we can say is done in some ways through YouTube, because it then influences the thinking of how the American public thinks about the court system, because someone decided, well, we're going to shift on over here and pivot in this direction. And we want to put things on television that actually influence the American public against the government, against the government. And so that becomes a corrupt system in and of itself, with the shift of having all these fake trials and things like that that they put on TV, because it seems like that all these trials they have on these internet trials now, they're no longer TV trials, they're internet trials. And so it's just an extension of since the year 2001, when we saw all these New York City crime shows and things like that. And then they've just pivoted off in this other direction. And then they had the judge shows and things like that on the court shows of actors and actresses that they put on TV. Well, then that influences the American public then to go into court and say, okay, well, look, I gave my baby mama some Pampers and some formula. Isn't that enough? And then the court system is like, no, you have to pay this woman $110 a month, or $1,001 a month, or something like that. And then what happens? He's mad at the woman because of inflation instead. And so it's like cycle after cycle, generation after generation. We have young men who are mad at the wrong people. They're mad at their baby's mama. They want to be the ones to do oversight into and look over what she is doing with the money. Yet nobody is looking into the government, what they do with their money. They go to war. Yeah, they go to war. I mean, I have a right, because my first husband, he actually told my daughter, our daughter actually, after she was 18, to ask me for money because of the fact that, he was paying me child support. He told her that I was taking all of his money, even though she was 18, and he wasn't paying me any child support for her. So I was supporting a grown daughter who could not find a job. She needed to have a place to live, or she was homeless. This is what people don't understand. This is what affluent celebrities do not understand. Michael Cantori, hello, what's wrong with your situation? What situation are you talking about? Are you talking about uh, um, can you give me some money? Oh, through the donations and through the internet, it actually becomes a vessel for corruption. Through the internet is worse than TV. Now, TV, I mean, the truth is I never really objected to TV. It's just that now that we have all these donation things through the internet, it creates vessels for more corruption. So a president, for example, I have to use the president over and over again because of the fact that I thought he was supposed to divest from all his for-profit business and everything like that. But the president then in turn can actually accept money. Politicians can accept money from foreign countries, foreign entities, which that violates the emoluments clause, where a president can accept money anonymously through through the internet. And so a king, so let's use Saudi Arabia. A Saudi Arabian king can actually donate to the current president that we have and say, "Oh, well, I donated money to you. Here's my contribution," even though the current president may not know that that money was donated to him. But then the current king thinks, "Oh, well, I have some influence with this guy because of the fact that I donated money to his campaign." I know you have many situations of negativity. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. And I've gotten a lot of pushback from people telling me just to forget about the negative situations in my life, and to just move on from it. And so it makes it harder and harder. I'm quite a load. What do you mean I'm quite a load? I'm not sure what you mean like that. I feel like I talk and talk and talk and it falls on deaf ears related to everything that's going on, because then people who are caught up into homelessness, then what happens is they tend to get pushed down further and further out of help. So I mean, it's like we cry out for help, and nobody seems to listen, and then you end up getting in, being in a situation. You're not purposely doing it, but the thing is, there's always someone else who's out there then who wants to exploit you, such as people who are into I call it transient locations, because I feel there's many different degrees of homelessness. So the live stream is the one place where I can speak more freely from the silly content that I make. So it's kind of two sides of myself right now, that where I do the humor because that's all I have, is creating humor, to try to keep my mind off of harm from the immediate people in an area who they don't have. The truth is, they don't have, so when you have, okay, I'll speak in third person. When you have men working in hotels at desks and things like that, their intentions are not good, because they're working in the hotel for the purposes of thinking they can hook up with a woman and take advantage of her. Maybe even men too. You should understand that you're more or less talking to yourself. Yeah, I mean, I get that. Yeah, I have been talking to myself. I get that. I've been doing that for several years. I've been trying to talk to politicians too. So how is it when I talk to a politician that I should be talking to myself? Uh, can you tell me that? Who is Michael Cantori? J. Michael Cantori is a famous person. Oh, Forbes. Um, yeah, so most people are talking to their self, but the interesting aspect about that, when I listen to women, it's like, why in the world do we share the same story? There's a lot of women who are, and it's like, okay, these women are not listening to me. I know they're not listening to me. They've not listened to anything that I've had to say, but they've experienced the same experience of abuse. You should understand. Yeah, I mean, I get that when you're talking to something like Chat GPT, that you are talking to yourself. I do get that. I mean, I get that aspect of things. Um, And so, like, but why, Michael Cantori, why is it that you have to diminish and marginalize my thoughts, or try to change my thought process? Because this is something I've experienced with the staff of a certain place, a transient location. And so you always have a man who he wants to change the woman's opinion about something because he knows he did wrong, related to what he did. And he's like, oh, well, you didn't see it that way. So he's there to pretty much say, you didn't see it that way, or you didn't see what you know you saw. So it's like sitting there watching a car accident take place, and then the opposing the person who caused the accident, they have some lawyer come over to you and then tell you, oh, well, you didn't see the accident that way, even though the lawyer wasn't there. I, politician, would recognize your bias as you describe men working at the front desk of a hotel. Um, okay, why is that just bias? Because um, you can't ju- I can't call that, you can't call that bias, because when police do an investigation, they're not they're not asking for a person to okay, if a woman was raped, would you see bias if I say I was raped by a man? If you're a politician, if you're a politician, you're going to see bias because a woman says I was raped by a man. Is that what you're saying, Michael Cantori? Because that's what it sounds like to me. You are absolutely saying that it's bias for a woman to say that she was raped by a man. You would respect my opinion without bias regarding men. Oh, so you would respect my opinion no matter how I deliver it to the politician. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. Okay. What you just said is, if I when I describe men working at the front desk of a hotel or a transient location, men working at the front desk of a grocery store, you see that as bias. However, when I put in, okay, say that I was raped by a man, and I use that wording, and I'm delivering that to a politician or the police, then you would see that as bias. And so therefore, I'm supposed to just leave that open-ended and not speak of it any gender for you to see and understand my opinion. Otherwise, it's like when I'm describing something, then you want me to describe it as though I was raped by a woman, and that's not possible. And so that's the problem with, when you have men who want to control the narrative. And that's what I feel, a lot of the pushback in society is that men know they've done wrong, they know they've done something wrong to harm someone, and so then they still want, it's like, to them it's a game and it's empowering, and they really do think women are stupid. And so there's a lot of men who are actually antagonistic, and they are part of the rage baiting. And, the thing is that I would advise women to do is just steer clear of them and not have any conversation with them, because that's all they're doing is, and some of them even come out of the military too, and um, I mean, they shouldn't be working with the public. Honestly, they really shouldn't be working with the public, because of the fact that they're there, and it's likely that they're going to do and cause more harm to another person, maybe even a child. Um, think about this correspondence and realize why men and women can't stand you. I don't know why men and women wouldn't be able to. Oh, as a politician. Oh, you're talking of if I was a politician. I do get that aspect. If you're talking about if I was a politician, that makes complete sense to me. And it has for quite some time. It has for a long time. The thing is, for me, it's like, well, I tend to, I mean, I don't know why people, or are you talking about from the aspect of media? I mean, because I get that related to media. Um, Legacy media created their own problem, though. Legacy media created their own problem when they decided to stray away from whatever it was that they were doing and then follow trends because they were losing money. You have continuously flapped your Bible. Um, yeah, but that's the whole premise of rambling and getting thoughts out of your head is because when you have no one to talk to and get the thoughts out of your head, then they just pile up inside of your head. Whereas if you're continuously rambling and talking all the time, that's good therapy. That's really, really good therapy. You're able to tell truths into places that have happened to you when you know that it's a crime, and then there's people who don't want to listen. And that's one of the things I've always said about women in divorce is that there's women. I actually experienced this in my first marriage. He was physically abusive to me in my first marriage. My first husband was as well. And I told his chain of command. And I took him away to the barracks for a couple of days and then brought him back. That's what they did. That was their response to me. And so my husband was telling me, so it's just like they didn't care. It's just like they didn't care one bit. Well, the thing is, it gets worse. And so in media all the time, I remember after Operation Desert Storm, there was 5 women murdered after their husbands, at Fort Bragg, after their husbands came back from Operation Desert Storm. And so, what's not for you?